Oh, god damn. Whew. Burning it in the countryside. Oh, come on, Spidey. Let's go, motherfucker. Oh, you fucking go.
Anyone want to surrender? No?
Jesus, babe. Just hotbox the whole fucking apartment, why don't ya?
Oh, shit. My bad, babe. Hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Ah, there we go.
Oh, yeah. That totally fixed it there. Now the place smells like South Central LA and a damn fruit tree.
Wild lavender orchard, to be precise, hun. And you know, I'm kind of digging the smell a bit. You know what? Fuck it. Let's keep it all the way potpourri.
No more. Stop it. Give me that.
I'm just playing, babe.
That's all you've been doing is playing.
All right. Take it. Hey, where you going? Why don't you come on and be an accessory to some unlawful activity with me?
I'm sorry, babe. You see, I unfortunately can't because I've been bestowed the incredible gift of having to work on a Saturday with my side business.
Oh, hey, hun, you knit shit.
It is crochet, and it gets me a little bit of extra money on the side.
And ain't there some sort of rule about working on Saturdays? I mean, I'm not religious.
Hey, I choose to, smartass. Maybe because I spent a few too many of my damn Saturdays staying broke and being a vegetable. Oh, and there's the whole boredom thing, too.
Yikes and ouch. You really like to make a sting, huh?
Well, I got it from you. You said you either gotta start being a baller or end up being bald.
Hold on. I said be bald. The fuck?
Oh, shut up. You know what I meant.
Okay, fair enough. But to be fair, you're gonna need to have you a little Sabbath sometime. It's getting dark, and the good thing is you still got all the Sunday to crochet and be Miss Baddest Bitch. How about you just veg out with me for a change and watch Mandy on Prime with me?
Fine. By the way, I'm always the baddest.
2 hours later.
Whew, man. Shit. That was pretty fucking crazy.
Right? Nicholas, you's a goddamn madman. Love you.
Hey, babe.
Yeah, what's up?
Could you maybe do me a favor?
Aw, shit. I know what kind of favor you mean. I know them sounds. Gotta get up.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't be. Besides, you already sparked a movement that I'm way ahead of. Spicy pork rinds and a Coke Zero.
Monster.
Gotcha. My keys. All right, woman. I'll be back in a bit.
Thanks, baby cakes. Hey, don't forget your phone.
Ah. Thank you.
Hey, and you can't leave without a kiss.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Fuck using our signals.
and oxen-free.
Aha, yup. Of course it's you. Popping out of the deep recesses of my mind here at the twilight hour.
Yeah. Well, what's one to do? Besides, when has there ever been a time where a trek for stony eats didn't include a gestational mental sojourn into the cerebral cortex? Can't expect the brain to sleep when the metabolism is in fucking overdrive.
Yeah, well, partner, as it stands to reason that if my brain were asleep, I wouldn't be behind the wheel of my whip, being the Uber Eats boyfriend right now.
Oh God, enough of the weepy cum tears. You knew that was a part of the package for a while now. What's a loving heart without a sacrifice or two now and again?
Yo, fuck off, I ain't crying, alright? You see I'm here any damn way. It's what caused you to creep out of nowhere like a seemingly watertight shark, possibly once again to regale me of a tale of how I fucked up something somehow somewhere a long time ago, and on and on and on and on.
Okay. First of all, when everything's said and done, my purpose, such as it is, isn't to browbeat to the point of irreparable disrepair. I think that's sort of antithetical in the grand scheme of things. Besides, a wise man a long time ago once said, "When I move, you move. Just like that." And I gotta say, your committal towards not picking up a hint these days is pretty hysterical. Almost to the point of parody. No fucking clue where you got that from. Wait. You know what? I think I know where.
God, I guess once you pop the bud really doesn't stop. God damn it.
Oh, come on, man. I'm just teasing. You know, for a hot motherfucker, you get awfully antsy.
Amazing reminder for me to chill out on the green for a little while. Or maybe I'm just really fucking hungry. Luckily, the store's closed for remodeling. When the fuck did that happen? I just got gas here this morning. Shit.
Yay! Road trip! Come on, chop. Baby needs her snacks.
Oh, will you shut up?
The gods will hold you in their highest favor for this holy sacrament. And by the looks of it, it seems they already have. Just look at all them green lights.
Hey, the faster the better.
Hey.
What?
No. Don't make me play the riddle game, man. Talk to me. Tell me what's up.
No riddles, huh? Maybe you should stop acting like you don't already know what's the deal, okay?
Okay, fine. You got me. But you're the one who gets the esteemed privilege of living in the real world.
Whoopee fuck.
Is it what the wolf said?
Wolfie? No. Well, I don't know. Pieces of it, maybe. It's a bit strange to explain.
Strange, huh? Not like talking to yourself in a car kind of strange? Hey. Come on, man. I know you know this. Come on.
Doo-doo. 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 Doo-doo.
Doo-doo. Still got it.
Yeah, well, it's not that hard to get humming.
Yeah, well, at least it got you to mellow the fuck out, man. You know, I think you're right. Maybe you should leave that wacky tobacco alone for a little bit.
Yeah, miss your badgering presence. That sounds like a splendid offer.
Nuh-uh, young man. You haven't finished putting up all your toys. Commit to your cleansing, child.
Cleansing, huh? This fucking guy.
Hey, remember, we're this fucking guy, friendo. You want this shit to stop, then you better make like the Valdez and spill. I mean, we got time.
Fine. I don't know, man. I mean, look, I'm not a hater. Wolfie got the mad skills with the fingers, and, I'd be a damn fool not to encourage her to apply her talents for a clientele who's willing to pay.
Oh, nigga, you ain't lying about them fingers, boy.
Yo, knock it off, man. I mean, she's got a craft that she's honed, and she's making it work for her, and she manages to get motherfuckers to take notice. Yeah, crocheting may not exactly be the most incredible hobby or skill in the world, and probably takes a fuck ton of time for her to get anywhere, but as do most things, but I can't do that shit.
Well, not exactly any and everybody's necessarily cut with that artisan cloth, so to speak. That's why it's called a skill.
Yeah, more like a gift, actually. Don't just sit there and looking at her twirl and twist away, only for her to turn and tell me how much better people are at this shit than she is.
Wait, please tell me we're talking about knitting again.
It's crochet.
Crochet. Right, got it. Well, I'm sure Beethoven once thought his Fifth Symphony was so much of a shitburger, even he felt lucky enough to be barred from having to hear it. It's always better to be your own critic anyway. Saves yourself a small splash of the misery you're bound to receive from probable outside criticism.
Well, yeah, I know that all too well. Or should I say new? Guess that's why I'm lying in this rut, pretending to talk to no one. That drive to slave over a vocation that's my own, owning something to perfection. It's just dead now.
Oh, don't I know it. And you're all still in your feels, cause maybe you think she sees that also. That your lack of initiative and creative drive is no longer a secret. Center stage for all to see, despite having nothing really to show for anything anymore. Hey, wanna know a little secret that's may cheer you up? It's not dead. Your drive, that is. Life support? Chemotherapy? Yeah, sure, maybe. Need to give last rites? Sure, fine, we'll go with that.
Gee whiz. I ever told you how pessimistically encouraging you can be?
Yeah, you might already have. The off switch ain't hard to reach in this bad boy. And might I say, this is one nice fucking ride. Better than that fucking geriatric Toyota you were rocking.
Hey, now we all know it was high time for an upgrade that was actually worth a damn. Bluetooth, AC, XM radio.
Forward fucking progression, friendo. Only took you 32 years. But hey, George done told that hair to go suck a dick. Ha ha!
Yup, long strokes. But yeah, man. Wolfie didn't put me in this stink or whatever. This cavernous, creative emptiness, or should I say lack thereof. I guess it was kind of always there, just incubating, growing, almost cancerous.
Which is never a good thing. Especially with all that borrowed time we've been accruing.
Yeah, right. Perfect example. It's kind of like the podcast I used to do.
Aha! Ding, ding, fucking ding. I knew you'd quit dicking around and get to it eventually.
You know what, man? I think I need to pull over. Hold on. My drive isn't dead. It's just on life support. It's pretty nice to kind of talk about it in simple terms, isn't it? And that voice in your head always sits by and tells you that, it's kind of always there to remind you that, maybe you're slacking behind a little bit. Your conscience, maybe. I don't know. I like to put a name to it, I think people like to rely on saying it's a conscience as an excuse to not really, you know, take it upon oneself to, to just act, I suppose. It's just it's sort of like, I don't want to say an impulse inhibitor, I guess. I don't even know if that makes sense. But, there's always a little something that's kind of telling you something in your head. I never feel like I've had that voice that would ever tell me to do something like stupid, though. I think that's kind of the thing that's, kept me, from completely going off in the deep end. I'll tell you right now, I am a patron saint of doing the bare minimum. I swear to God, I live by it. I breathe and eat the bare minimum. It's pretty brazen enough for me to say, but I'll be honest about it. And I think it's fair. I don't think there's any shame in that. I've tried a long time, long fucking time, learning to try to, I guess, sort of embrace my faults or whatever. Because I figured, like, I tell me if this makes sense, okay? I mean, I'm thinking about it in my head, but it just sounds really fucking stupid, But but I'm sitting there and it's just like, man, I remember maybe the same type of imagination that I probably had back when I was 8 years old, Not that I'm saying like I'm like I'm sort of matured less or anything like that. I'm just saying like, man, I remember back in the day, like I had like this really like untouchable idyllic mindset, and I remember I could channel back to it. I remember all those times, man. It was all rich and detailed. Like, I don't know, maybe like when I say 8 years old, do I know if that's like a callback to anything, I'm saying that to say is just like I can retain a good memory for like a lot of the things I do, but I guess you try really, really hard to sort of like not repress as many decent memories as you have, because sometimes, I think those are good to sort of call upon sometimes to kind of keep you in check, to kind of keep you, your head right, But I think it's what's so I mean, in the I guess in the tradition of being honest with myself, believe it or not, I think it's maybe the more negative aspects of my life that sort of keep me on my toes more than anything. I mean, I don't want to sound weird by saying I feel like I'm defined by my failures. I think it's a really dour way to look at things, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would probably tend to agree with me, but at the same time, I feel like when you become of that age, you know, y- and you've gone this far, and you've probably seen some shit, but you're at that point where it's just like, yeah, I remember kind of what got me here, you know, and you're forced to sort of crawl back inside of yourself and try to remember like what things could have been, you know, had you have been more, I guess, economical with your time, a little more smarter. It's weird, right? Probably I'll take this in like a really weird direction, right? But I never really, you know, I was never really the type of a person for therapy. You know, I never, I knew about it pretty much all my life, like the stigma that sort of surrounded it. People talking about like their mental health issues. I have friends on top of friends that can can sing me a whole bunch of stories about the type of prescription medications they were taking, and it was just like, wow, it seemed like such a foreign concept to me. I don't know, maybe if it's a cultural thing or not. I remember I was sort of like introduced to like to the to the prospect of that, I guess, from my parents, and I think that came about at a time when I was around 16, 17, 18 or so, around the high school years. I suppose it's like the most like traumatic years for kids, in school. I mean, obviously. I mean, I can only guess, like, fucking, if you look at kids like nowadays, especially like, with the advent of social media in the palm of their hands, I can only imagine it's just much, much worse. It's like an old fat, fogey right now. Let's stop that. Okay, back it up, back to 16. There was like a point I was getting at, right? But like I remember not really knowing if I had some sort of mental illness. Oh, that hurt. Ugh. If that was even feasible for something like me, because growing up for me was a bit was a lot of ups and downs, I suppose. I mean, who doesn't have ups and downs? Pretty sure like there's people who have way more fucked up stories in my childhood. But I guess I'm trying to like, I guess, paint a picture, I suppose, where you were. It's I think there's a difference between, to sort of scale this, right? To kind of, you know, I think there's a difference between failure and misfortune. I think a lot of times people can grow up with a lot of misfortunes in their lifetimes, and I think failure would suggest, um, an unsatisfactory result of 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 a multitude of different trials, you know, that that one undertakes. But I go back to the whole like you know mental health thing. My parents like I say that because like I was one of those kids who grew up in school, and I was always told that like I could be like a super A student, and I got forced in all the pre-advanced prep classes and shit like that, and you know it's incumbent upon me to reflect the good family name, as one would hope, especially, being the oldest child of the family. Always have to get good grades, always be smart, always be a role model. Those are great platitudes to live by. If I have kids one day, I hope to instill those lessons in them. But it was a little bit different when you're kind of like in that, in those formative stages, in those formative years. Right? I'll tell you the reason why I'm kind of thinking about this, and it'll kind of like sort of like it's all coming to make sense, right? But I guess it'll kind of bounce back to like, the whole issue with the podcast and everything, right? Like, so this will all mean something. I know it sounds like I'm just spitballing right here and I'm just being erratic, but no, it'll all come together in a second, right? But a couple days ago, before I started thinking about picking this back up again, I started to actually put myself through the gauntlet, so to speak, and go back and listen to my old episodes that I used to do. And it's been a while since I actually started committing to them, like I said I would, and I've been keeping a lot of my promises with show updates and everything. Sort of led people on, and it just plus with just a long absence, of course, it was bound to fuck up and fail, and I didn't care for it anymore, and and I didn't really put forth any work to it. But when I was listening to the first, like, I guess maybe 10 or so episodes, when I sort of felt like I was maybe hitting on something, maybe, there was a reason for, like, I was able to actually kind of look back at them. And I tell you right now, I really hate fucking listening to my own self sometimes. I mean, and I have to in order to put podcasts together. It's it's a give and take kind of thing. So I'm able to like sort of accept it. But, I know that's just a part of the gig, that's just, those are the breaks. But man, I fucking hated listening to myself on those old podcasts. But I was sort of at that point. I guess I'm at that point now in my head where it's just like, man, maybe I could probably take a break from beating myself up a second and actually kind of give these a listen. Because while I didn't want to do the podcast anymore for various reasons, something did compel me to want to go back to it and just find out why I started in the first place. And the first episode I was with was Who is Biggest Mikey? And I was just like, wow. And, I'm not ashamed to admit that maybe I can kind of be undertaken by my own ego a little bit. Who is Biggest Mikey? I was just like, wow, I was really trying to put myself out there like that, wasn't I? And sort of like push this on to people, favorite YouTubers and shit like that. God, if I can only admit to myself that I feel like I was just trying to, sort of grasp onto that shine a little bit, but I do remember the time where I felt like, man, this is, I don't know. This is a chance for me to, sort of spruce up my creativity. Have some fun. Give myself a little hobby. And throw caution to the wind and see what happens. See what people think. Because it's always. I can't imagine how people who do this, who have like a lot of exposure, like how they handle it. Just like 1,000, even hundreds of thousands seeing eyes look at whatever they produce. That has to be just so overwhelming, But whatever reception I guess I did get seemed to resonate with people. I know I sound like I'm stroking my own dick right now. I'm honestly not, but I was able to listen to like the first few episodes. And the first episode where I was talking about like I was speaking from the point of view of my own dad because I don't know. I think if I found a really funny thing. I talked to him on the phone not too long ago, and like it's so weird when I noticed that, man, like him and I kind of have the same kind of voice. And that's really cool. I like that authoritative boom we both kind of have, you know. And then I kind of just, it was easy for me to recall on how sometimes, growing up, my dad used to be really persnickety. He's not so much anymore, but I have younger siblings, and seeing him, throwing the dad hammer is still pretty awesome. But still kind of gives me a little bit of PTSD sometimes. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, but that whole thing I was talking about was, I guess, I was at that point where I was just, physically probably at maybe my worst, I guess, physically. God, I was almost like 100 pounds heavier then, thinking about it. And I guess I was trying to say, like, maybe I'm on a weight loss journey. Maybe I want to do political commentary. Maybe I want to tell feminists to suck a dick because that was the hottest shit in, 2016, 2015, whatever the fuck, it was a very contagious train I just wanted to hop, but I figured it was my time because I felt like I had something to say. I wanted to maybe relate to people, and I just wanted to see, it was like Velcro. I was casting like, a Velcro ball into something and just hope something would stick, because, pomp and circumstance aside, I'm just a normal guy, just some dude from Texas. I'm nobody really special, just a guy who has like his own normal ups and downs, and maybe, probably in that point, I'm probably in that point in my life where I've learned to, guess, finally be okay with embracing some of my, downs, if so to speak. Kind of going back to like my, I guess my adolescence and kind of how that ties into like my first podcast, and which each subsequent episode would be like afterwards. My dad would always tell me about what would happen to me if I didn't, if I kept being a fuck up and being a CDF student all the time, despite the God-given brain he says I had and my, very capable intelligence. I fucking destroyed every math test I had in school, but for some reason I just didn't give a dick about science or whatever. I digress. He was always telling me every time he would be disappointed with seeing my report card. He would always say this, and he would say it so often that it is literally branded in my fucking skull, man. If you fail, you ain't gonna get into college, but you're gonna have to find a job. And if you don't want to find a job, and if you don't want to work, like, a motherfucker will steal. And if you steal, your ass will end up getting locked up in prison. And if you get locked up in prison, you're going to be fucked in the ass like they do in Oz. He would say that. He would say variations of that forever. I kind of feel like I did a disservice by not kind of like, saying it with this gusto right there. But, kind of calling back to why he had to say it so often, it was sort of it sort of pretty much encapsulated, I guess, my mental state from and then, or from that time, I guess, where I don't know, I just felt like that. I don't want to say something morbid, like a living death, but I don't know. There's something unsightly about saying you just live to consume. And I'm not meaning like, just eat and drink and shit like that, but I guess I just live to just ingest things and take things in and just sort of soak up my surroundings and not really do much to care for myself. You know? And I think that's one of the most confounding things about that is because when I was growing up, as opposed to like, people who just, consciously fuck up. I don't know. I won't say I like didn't know I wasn't, being all I could have been, I guess from my childhood into my adult life. But well, scratch that. Hold on. It it was it was complete utter disregard, I guess, of any sort of standardized set in discipline. I don't think I ever possessed or had that, and I don't really ever think I had any I don't really think I had much reason to be. In a weird reason. And you know what's so funny? It's so weird to say that, aloud. But, you know, I mean, it's probably the best way I can describe it. I was at that time when I was sort of growing up in my formative years, and I realized that it started to, I guess, maybe matter to me that I wasn't really. It's like my shame finally, I guess, kind of caught up with me up until that time, and I realized, man, I'm really, I'm really risking it. I have to, you know, I have to find something. I got to find a passion in something, right? One of the things I ended up finding a passion for, believe it or not, was movies. Loved cinema. Love it. Love it. I'm pretty sure you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys can probably already tell. I always liked the cinema, and I remember, I used to, when I was in high school, right? We always got allowances. We would save up like our lunch money throughout the week or whatever, but we can basically do whatever we want. So if I didn't, go to the Pizza Hut line in my high school cafeteria, I would maybe walk down the road to this like movie and bookstore they had called Hastings. It's cool shit, and I would spend all my money, and I would just stack out and like start my little like blossoming DVD collection. And I had all the cool shit, man. That place had like a lot of like the coolest anime and foreign films that were like all region that you could get, man. They were really cool. I remember I got the A Better Tomorrow box set for like $25. And I guess sort of growing up, whenever my dad didn't decide to take his little pot shots at me, you know, about how come, I'm not finishing my homework or how come my little sister is smarter than me or some shit like that. On paper, I mean. They sort of ascertained that I sort of had like a love for this, and I remember telling him I wanted. I think this is maybe something I want to be because whenever I was in school and I actually tried to sort of put my focus into some sort of skill. One of the things I used to do was I would spend a lot of extra time in my AV class in high school. It's really cool. Um, I had this really awesome teacher. I'm not gonna drop his name, but he was really good friends with my dad. That's kind of what educators are. They're all buddy buddy. And he saw like a interesting proclivity in me when I told him about like how I wanted to recreate video projects and shoot like fake mock music videos. This is like way before the time of YouTube. Where we had to actually like set up DV cameras and like hook up VCRs to like U8 like USBs and computers. It was so fucking weird. Like it took like forever. Such antiquated technology. And then I remember there was a chance where I was gonna go to the Technology Students Association or something like that. I'm probably fucking up that name completely, but it was sort of like a UIL sponsored fundraising thing where like a whole bunch of audio visual teams from all different types of high schools in the 5A area would all get together and have like a competition for like, videos and shit like that. It was really cool, it was almost like a weird like mini QuakeCon. I remember there was kids from our school also like brought like their big PCs so they can all like huddle around and play Unreal Tournament 2004. But I remember going there and I was like, I think maybe I found a passion in something. Maybe it was something I can maybe achieve. Holy fuck, these people make video games here and everything. And I thought that was sort of the future I wanted to sort of gear myself towards. And there was a fateful day that I think I was telling my parents what I wanted to do, or particularly my dad. And like any smart dad would do, he encouraged me to think of a backup plan. That, of course, my hobby for film editing would be, a good career path if I had something else to fall back on. Like, now, let's not forget that you're also on the junior varsity football team. Hopefully for varsity football, that's your better path for college, there, son. You know. And of course, he would always sort of beat me over the head with the talk about making sacrifices. Even saying that if you truly want to do this, you know, people who have careers in the creative arts, it's a lot of hungry nights, a lot of missed opportunities to sleep on some mattresses. Got to be real scant with money if you get money. And it's a cutthroat world. I'm not trying to tell you this because I want you to fail. I'm telling you this because I love you. And I just want you to do better. That's all I wanted. And it's so weird to sort of like internalize that at that time. Because obviously that's what my parents wanted. It's definitely what they wanted for me. And for a graduation present, they got me a Sony DV cam. They actually had like little DVD RWs that could write to the disc when you recorded it. So I can start on my filmmaking career whenever I got out of high school and went on to college, although not for a football scholarship because I decided to quit before my varsity year because I didn't like it anymore. And I guess that thoroughly upset my dad. Why put forth the effort in anything if you're just going to stop doing it? And I guess everything's just kind of all cyclical. Or maybe it all just comes back in waves. It's just, knowing everything just feels all too familiar to me, but I don't know. All I can say is I know now that, I feel like it's all about to happen all over again. Like you're going to fold under pressure. You feel like you've been given the golden moment and the golden opportunity to shine, no matter how many people have your back, who keep wanting to push you to the forefront, who just want to see you excel and shine the best way you possibly can. And know that for some reason you don't know if you want it yourself. Maybe it's because, you're committed to not wanting to be the impressive one. You don't want anyone to notice you. You want to just sort of crawl back into your hole, because you're afraid you may disappoint them. That maybe you should just give them what you expect of you, I didn't have the slightest clue what was sort of really leading me astray till now, because this, like I said, the same feeling, it all just, it I can identify it now, and it's that same nuisance, and I know it all too well. I've had I've almost had like a marriage with it. I don't know if and like I said about the whole thing, like I don't know if that's necessarily depression or not, but I'm able to pinpoint it. So at least I sort of know that, like, yeah, man, I don't ever like to use the word regret necessarily. But, you know, it does sort of put you in a funk when you realize that maybe all your efforts you're trying now just might be all for naught because you fucked it all away before. You know? I won't say life doesn't give you second chances, but sometimes we as human beings, as creatures of habit, can be so fucking ignorant to not even know as to when a second chance sort of came by. And we missed that opportunity. One of the weirdest things I've been doing ever since I've been away, ever since I stopped doing the podcast, is sort of just, I sort of keep finding myself in that, in just that mental figure eight, just about like, you know, just wondering, just worrying, and sort of foisting this anxiety onto myself, knowing just like, oh man, I should have did this, I should have did this, I should have did this, should have did that. I could have been better. This could have been, a lot easier for me. If maybe you just sort of listened. Maybe you didn't put people at a distance. And I guess whenever you sort of are in that kind of headspace, maybe you don't have, maybe you just sort of put your focus on wanting to correct everything, and maybe you just don't have time for podcasts or politics or the internet or the rest of their problems. You worry about time because you haven't been worrying about time. Think about all your loved ones. You try to mentally prepare for the future of maybe not ever seeing them again. Punishing yourself for not recognizing what steps you could have taken to sort of circumvent whatever future misfortune befalls you. It's scary knowing that. I mean, but I don't know. I don't think it's all that bad, I guess. They always say when, recognizing a problem is the first step to curing a problem. And I don't know, maybe I don't necessarily want to cure anything. I mean, not cure, but just, I guess, make amendments to, you know. Like they always say, live and learn. Maybe I should sort of look at this as like a glass half full kind of thing. I guess anybody can, if they want to. I guess I'm sort of called back to like the lowest moment, I think, in my own personal life. When I thought I was so scared and not believing in the prospect of a future when I was around 17 or 18 that I couldn't picture myself whatever obstacles I thought I could face maybe 15 years from now, because I clearly wasn't facing them right at the time. And a lot of people seem to be really angry with me. I'm frustrated. Felt like I was letting them down. And I guess what kept me from making any fatal mistakes at that point in time was the realization that something was still there. For some reason, I took a little more. Maybe it's wrong, but I felt like it was okay to sort of take confidence in the fact that, like, I, you know, I do have a voice. And despite everything, I think one thing that sort of made it all click to me was I realized I still have the ability to at least feel things like pain and sorrow and maybe anger. And it's a lot better than being numb, like just a zombie. I mean, like I said, it always comes back around, I guess, like in cycles. Took a lot of bullshit to get to 32. You know. One cool thing though I say about being forced into maturity, I guess, is realizing that, that one glimmer of hope, that one glimmer of, I guess, that idyllic, you know, 8-year-old that was, I guess, transferred to a 12-year-old, transferred to a 17-year-old, and maybe found its way and lily padded up its way to a 30-something plus, 40-something plus, 50-something plus. It's still there, and it's sort of keeping, me in check and keeping sort of the good aspects of life in perspective. I guess it sort of keeps me upright. It just takes work, I guess. And you know what's funny? I have this sort of faint suspicion that maybe it's about due time I start putting in some work. I owe it to myself.
Wow. That's really good. Do you think you can work on starting the car and getting us to 7-Eleven, buddy?
Oh, god damn. Fuck, man. How long have I been here? Shit. Get fucking home.
A few moments later.
You know, I just want you to know that there stands a good chance that Wolfie's probably asleep by now.
Well, she'll probably have herself one badass breakfast. Hey, baby, I'm back. There you are. Oh, sleep. Good little baby. Good night, baby.
So what's next, hombre?
I don't know. Not exactly tired yet.
Ex-hamster date night? Haha.
Not quite, buddy. Maybe something a little more useful.
Ooh, I like.
Testing? Testing? It's like riding a bike. You got this. What's happening, trigger men, trigger women, trigger gender nonconforming, and everything else in between? I'm your host, Biggest Mikey, and you're listening to the 51st episode of the Biggest Mikey podcast.
Hey, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Biggest Mikey podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed slaving over it. Remember, if you want to keep up with all the updates on me or the podcast, please be sure to hit me up on my Twitter at Biggest Mikey. That's at BIGGESTMIKY. I'm really easy to reach and I always make sure I reply in a timely fashion. If you have a question for me or maybe a question I could possibly read out loud for the show, just feel free to hit me up on my DMs. Also, make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe and notification bell so you can be alerted for all the weekly podcasts and live streams that I do on the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. Also, if you'd like to help support the show, please feel free to do so on my Patreon at patreon.com/biggest_Mikey. That's BIGGEST_MIKEY. Thanks again for listening. Biggest Mikey, out.